But I DM'd you about the M1 Finance. I got my daughter an account with ACORN.
Okay.
So I was just wondering, does M1 Finance have a custodial account where I can transfer her account over?
Okay, so how much money do you have in this account in M1 Finance? I mean, in Acorns?
She has $4,000.
Okay. Now, the very first thing is, before I go into detail about how I invest and so on, is that basically the main reason I recommend people to switch from Acorns to M1 Finance, sometimes, depending on who you actually are, what you're interested in. The cool thing about Acorns is basically everything is fully automated. They have cool features. For example, every time you spend money, they invest the rest for you. They have their own portfolio. What I personally did not like about Acorns was basically that they had way too much control. Meaning, for example, if they wanted to switch the investments out, they could if they wanted to. And that would be a problem for me, because you might have $4,000 today, but what happens, for example, 10 years later when you have, for example, 20,000 or 40K, right? And if it switched the investments around, that could be a problem. But even in this case, right, because you probably have, for example, a 529 account, so you won't get taxed. But for normal taxable accounts, I just don't like it. And on top of that, also, if I want to open up an account, for example, and I want to have a certain portfolio, I don't want them to keep switching back and forth and doing a bunch of things. I want to keep that for long-term basis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got you. Yeah, because I remember the content you put on YouTube about when you were switching over and how you did, how they did it and stuff like that. So
and the main thing here, I'll be honest with you, Rick. The main thing is, I don't know how they're moving now as far as, for example, transferring investments maybe from a custodial account over, for example, to a 529 account with M1 Finance. By the way, M1 Finance also has that, so don't worry about that. They do have it. But the main problem is, last time I was with Acorns, I think they charge you, don't quote me on this, between $50 to $75 per share that you were going to actually transfer over. Not per share, like per investment. So if you had, for example, 7 ETFs and you're going to transfer those over, that means 7 times 50. So we're talking about, so that's almost $350. So for you, and also for me at the time, that was going to be like a big chunk of money. So I was like, what the heck am I supposed to do now? So what I did was, instead of doing that, I just liquidated and called it a day.
Okay.
Because, by the way, you have a custodial account for your daughter, or do you have, for example, a 529 account for your daughter? And do you know the difference?
If I'm not familiar with the 529, is that for the college?
Yes, because that's
yeah.
How old is your daughter?
She's 12 now.
Yeah,
she'll be 13 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so so all you want to have for your daughter is a 529 account, honestly, because once she turns 18, you just want to make sure the money goes towards the right things, which in this case is going to be education, right? That's what you want it for? Yeah. So you can have that money, for example, in a 529 account, and if I'm not mistaken, M1 Finance does offer that. So what would that mean for you, right? It would mean if Acorns is charging you way too much money to have the whole thing set up. They do have a custodial account right here. So here it is. They have custodial account. If you have M1 Finance Plus, open a taxable account for a minor. Ownership of this account will need to be transferred when the minor reaches the age of maturity, right? So they also have a custodial account, so you could do that with M1 Finance, which is cool, but most likely I wouldn't even do that either, because you need M1 Finance Plus, which costs you extra money per year. I don't want that to happen to you, so I would just probably open up a 529 account with Vanguard or Fidelity, which is free, and you can assure that that money is going to be used for education and nothing else, which is basically most likely what you want, right, as a parent.
Yeah. I mean, what I was, just to give you a little background.
Go ahead.
What I wanted to do is do something like that, because do something like what you just said as far as college.
Yeah.
But then again, I wanted, say for instance, she doesn't want to go to college.
Say for instance, she starts doing drugs and he finds his boyfriend that's all messed up in the head. Do you want to have her get all that money?
Yeah, no. What I'm saying, no. When she gets close to 18, I had planned on putting it in a trust. So I can kind of spoon feed her the money. You understand what I'm saying?
It's too complicated.
Right, am I saying this wrong?
Yeah. what I would do is basically, right? The first thing is this, okay? What you want to create is an independent adult, right? That can actually do things the correct way. So if she, by the way, 529 account, I don't think that's just for college, it's for continuing education. So that can mean, for example, most likely a licensed trade school, whatever it is. But it's about being able to do something with that money. There is going to be a penalty if it's not used for that, which is fine. But if you just want to have it, for example, in a taxable account, just to make sure, just put it in a taxable account in your name. And then when the time comes, for example, you could just transfer the money over to her if you want to do that. Right?
So,
But then that way you don't run. The problem with this idea is, I'll be honest with you, Rick, is that if you do what you wanted to do, you're going to put it in a taxable account, which then negates the idea of having this money grow fully tax-free. That's the main benefit here. So that's why I would recommend a 529 account, because you get the tax benefit, because this money is going to grow tax-free and there won't be any penalties as long as this money is going to be used for the right reasons. You've got to stop.